And somebody pitched him on this, and he said yes, where you can make billions. And that's what he's done here. And I hope this thing gets a lot of attention and a lot of people start focusing on what is easily the greatest financial grift in the history of presidents. I can't.
What do you think is the most pressing issue for Canada right now? Honestly, it's probably the United States and dealing with the U.S.
I mean, it just cracks me up that people were pissed off about Hunter Biden going on a board, which he shouldn't have been on.
We need to know what he...
Wait, real quick. What is the ratio of, like, what can one nuclear reactor power in terms of heat exchangers and steam turbines? Is there a way in-game you can look this up or calculate this? Or what is the actual ratio?
He was doing in China and Russia while his father was vice president and or while his father was preparing to become the president.
This is corruption at its core.
Folks, this is what people hate about the swamp. This is a part of how Donald Trump won in the first place, saying that we're going to get rid of these sweetheart deals. We're going to make sure that we clean up the...
Oh, wait. So the output is 40 megawatts. Max consumption is 10 megawatts. So one can only power 4? One power spark.
The axis of power in a place like Washington, D.C.
And yet we have a meme coin and he's inviting people to the White House for the dinner. I don't know. I find the whole thing, it's verging on comical if it wasn't so tragic.
I think that's exactly right.
And then 103.
I think this is the most egregious act we've seen from this administration so far. We can talk about the tariffs and the deportations and the threats to Jerome Powell, etc. None of that's good. But you can at least begin to fashion an argument as to why, in some version of reality, it might be beneficial to the nation. You couldn't make a good argument, not a rational argument. You couldn't make a sane argument, but you could try to make the argument. You could try to say we need to reshore jobs, etc. There's no argument for this. You can't even attempt to steelman this. It is pure grift, pure corruption, using the White House, using the presidency as a vehicle to shake down regular investors, not wealthy political donors, which you can make the argument that maybe the Democrats do, but retail investors, in order to raise money, again, not for some greater cause, not even to fund some political campaign, but purely to enrich your friends, to enrich your family, and to enrich...
You ever hear these guys talk and you think, God, these guys are just soy as fuck, and they sound so fucking mad that Trump figured out the great crypto scam before they did, and now they're just ass pained over it. Like, yeah, the president of the United States is scamming every single American, and he's opened up a potential avenue to accept bribes in a way that we'll never be able to verify for all of U.S. history. Problem?
Your allies. This is completely unheard of. And I just want to highlight that lockup period, which it was a 3-month lockup period. It basically meant that the insiders of the coin can't sell until the period expires. So this is very important. We said this, we need to pay attention to when the lockup period expires. It expired
every 3 months.
Week. So
I think there were 4 lockups. I think there were 4, right? Because it's like 25% vested in 3 months, and then 3 months, and next 25%, and then the next 3 months, the next 25%, and then, right? I think that's how it worked, right?
Is it any surprise that this bullshit incentive plan to pump up the price of the coin, which is leading to this rat race.
Wait, what's the incentive plan? Sorry, hold on.
That this bullshit.
Oh, fuck! I didn't even think about this. Because Trump is giving dinner or whatever bullshit to the top holders of the meme coin. Oh, that's so fucking dirty. Oh, why didn't I even think of this? Because it's near your vestment period. This is when he can finally start offloading his coins. Oh my God. I genuinely can't get how you're such a perfect setup. I have a constant lag of red circuits. Can't you grow your factory, bro? What do you mean?
Incentive plan to pump up the price of the coin, which is leading to this rat race where it's winner takes dinner with the president that sent the coin skyrocketing up 60% in one night. Is it any surprise?
Is that true?
This coincides?
Wait, is there a trading view that does TradingView host this coin so that I can see what it trades at? Or is there a website? You won't have enough space for a nuclear setup. Just bring heating pipes, heat exchangers, heating towers, and turbines for power. I won't have enough space. Are you kidding, motherfucker? It's outer space. I'll have all the fucking space I need, bitch. You don't know shit about my spaceships, motherfucker. I can't even believe you would dare say that. I won't have enough space. Suck my dick. Okay, this is... When did he announce that? Oh, God. Was it on April 23rd? Trump announces dinner crypto holders. Five days ago. Good one. Jumped by more than 70% after the announcement. Oh, my God. What? Why? Wait, why did it take off? Wait, circuit. All requests satisfied. This is over 150. Why is this green? 150? Oh, wait, never mind. What do you mean, why is it green? Wait, where the fuck is it getting the 150 from? Hello? Because it's in here. I'm so stupid. I'm an actual small-brained idiot. How can one man's brain be so small? Sorry, okay.
Right when the lockup period expired. Definitely not. And I think what we'll find out soon enough is that the insiders, this was the Hail Mary that they threw right before they sell. And I would not be surprised if we find out, you know, that they sold, that they profited significantly off of this, not in terms of what they realized in a gain on Trump coin, but in dollar terms. I think they announced the dinner and then we find out they cashed out. And I just want to remind you again of the damage that this does.
From April 23rd to May 12th, hold as much Trump as you can. Your average holdings during this period will determine your ranking. The more Trump you hold and the longer you hold it, the higher your ranking will be. Oh my God.
To regular investors. Let's look back to a few months ago when the coin was first launched. You look at the on-chain data and you will find that there were 31 early traders who made a profit of almost $700 million trading this coin. And you think, boy, that sounds pretty corrupt. But then you see the 800,000 other investors who lost cumulatively more than $2 billion.
Based.
And this is what we have to remember about meme.
What's the significance of that announcement date? Okay, so the issue is that, like, I don't even know how many of you guys understand crypto. Nobody really understands crypto. So it's very frustrating when people talk about it because nobody really understands how fucked up everything is or what's going on. Okay, but let me try to break this down a little bit, okay? So what happened was Trump announced a big crypto coin, okay? And the name of this coin was Trump. Okay? When this coin was released to the public, however, all right, only 20% of the coin was available for everybody to buy. So this is what we can buy and sell, and this is what insiders hold. Insiders meaning people that get pre-approved slices of the coin that aren't available to the main market. They're not being bought and sold. So it's not uncommon that some insiders or some people will hold some amount of the coin pre-sale. 80% is a massive number, though. That's an insane percentage to be held by insiders, okay? Now, on top of the fact that insiders, so people that created the coin or allocated coin by people that created the coin, so Trump, right? Aside from the fact that these guys have a massive percentage of the coin, 80%, they also are making money off of fees from people that are buying and selling to run this whole pool, which is also crazy because they're making a ton of money just on people that are buying and selling in this 20%. All right. So now a way that you can say, oh, well, this coin is legit. And you know how you know the coin is legit is you have this thing called like a vesting period, which is similar to people that do stock compensation for tech workers or, you know, whoever else. You have a vesting period. And what that vesting period said for Trump coin was they're not allowed to sell any of their coin until 3 months pass. And then in 3 months, I think they're allowed to sell 25% of the coin. So 3 months have to pass before they can sell any coins. So they go, oh, look, so we know it's not a scam. It's not a pump and dump. We can't even pump and dump because, look, we can't even sell our shares. And then I think every 3 months afterwards, another 25% of this 80% here unlocks. Now, the dirty part is if they truly believe in this coin as a real project, you're not going to see them sell and dump because they want to support it or whatever. But what's actually going to happen is once this vesting period hits, what you would expect to see is this whole 25% chunk basically get dumped onto the market where all of these people are trading. And as it gets dumped onto the market, it's going to crash the price of the coin, which is going to drive down the shares, the value that all these people are holding. And it's going to allow these people here to extract a ton of money from these people because they're going to have their buys and sells lists and everything. They're going to be buying as these people are dumping. The price is going to go down, and then these people get to cash out. Now, it's kind of obvious that this is going to happen. So, I mean, why would you fall for a trap this stupid, right? Obviously, the coin should just crash before this vesting period, right? Well, one, Trump is the president of the United States, which already allows it to float a little bit higher than it should. But now, what Trump has said a few days ago, before, I don't know, does anybody have a date for when we hit this first vesting period? What Trump has said is, I'm going to offer a dinner to where if you're holding a lot of this coin from between this date and this date, you have a chance, if you're in the top holders of this coin, to have dinner with me. Well, what that's going to do is that's going to put a lot of upward pressure on the price so that as soon as they hit this first vesting period, they can dump at a higher price and make a ton of money as they basically pump and dump this coin. And that was about a week ago they announced that. So, and then I'm guessing we're coming up on our first vesting period pretty soon here. So that's just, but the timing is just to basically inflate the price of the coin. It's kind of crazy.
Coins, and this is why this is so dark. This is a zero-sum game. For every winner, there is a loser. In fact, more often than not, thousands of losers. And, you know, the losers, I hate to say it, are the ones who are dumb enough to buy into this shit. And that's also what I find so disturbing about this. It's the fact that the Trump organization actually knows that. They know that there is a certain percentage of their fan base that is dumb enough to do what...
Why did you wonder if the announcement was on the 23rd? How did you so specifically guess that? Because the goal of an announcement like that is to pump up the coin. So I didn't need to know when the coin was announced because I can just look at the price of the coin and go, oh, wow, there was some major news, obviously, that pumped the fuck out of the price of the coin. You can see it here. And you can see that the price of this coin jumped dramatically on the 23rd. So that's probably when he made the announcement. This is what you can see right here. Oh, and the first 25% is already locked. So they could already be dumping coins. I don't know if people are analyzing wallets to see if like some of the original 80%, I'm pretty sure you can track the original 80% being sold, but that somebody more into the crypto shit would have to be able to answer that question. How the fuck is this legal not blocked? Because the Trump admin has already basically said they're not going after any crypto schemes or crimes. So, good luck.
Whatever they...
Okay, sorry.
It's the fact that the Trump organization actually knows that. They know that there is a certain percentage of their fan base that is dumb enough to do whatever they tell them to do, to jump off a cliff if Trump demands it. Not the whole fan base, but certainly a percentage of it. And in this case, jumping off the cliff means throwing away your savings to bet on this rigged casino game that is disguised as a meet and greet with the president and a VIP tour of the White House. I mean, I am just still shocked, and I'm with you that it's comical. It is comical because it's so shameless. But that shouldn't detract us from calling it what it is, which is unprecedented corruption, and it is tragic.
His team also collects fees on each trade, and they've earned roughly $100 million just in January alone. And of course, you know, I love in 2016, he was just irate at the conflicts of interest and that Secretary Clinton was getting $250,000 for a speech. I mean, in this instance, he isn't even asking for donations. It's worse. He's asking for people to buy a volatile, unregulated coin that enriches him directly. And if I were Vladimir Putin, and if I get kicked out of Ukraine, it probably means at some point I get thrown out of a window. I mean, people who lose power in Russia, it usually doesn't end well for them. And I'm spending $60 to $100 billion a year on this failed war effort. I've lost almost 1 million young men sending them into this meat grinder, which at some point has got to take a toll on the morale and the.
Anyway, you could quickly debunk the Pelosi insider trading allegations. That shit is so annoying to hear. There's no way to debunk it because there's no proof or evidence of it. So it's just an unfalsifiable. People just say because her husband is very wealthy, and he's a huge trader, hedge fund guy or something. They say that because he's very wealthy, there must be insider trading. But it's impossible to disprove that because there's literally no evidence that they ever provide of it happening. So I don't know how you're supposed to be able to say anything about it.
Popularity. Wouldn't he be just stupid to figure out a secure way, maybe using Signal on a phone, to call the president and say, all right, price discovery is dictated at the margin, right? If the Trump coin has a $7 billion market cap, you might be able to take it to 10 or 15 billion with just 100 million, 500 million, $1 billion in purchases, right? What if you said to him, look, I can make this thing, I really love the Trump coin, and I'm going to make sure that for at least 5 years until you're well out of office, that this thing never, or that at some point it's at least worth 50 billion and your stake is 80%. So you're about to become the richest man in the world, President Trump, just because I love the coin. And in unrelated news, how do you feel about cutting support to Ukraine? I mean, wouldn't Putin be stupid not to make that call and make that offer? And two, wouldn't it be logical? Wouldn't it be the next point in the data pattern in the line for Trump to act on that call? I mean, he started a meme coin. What do you think he did it for? And the notion that he wouldn't be subject to this sort of influence, it just doesn't look at the corruption and the trail of bankrupt companies, the trail of unpaid subcontractors. And I'm incredibly disappointed the Democrats aren't putting up a better fight. I can't believe they're not.
I mean, what can you even do about it? Like, it's his DOJ. They're not going after crypto shit anymore. It's a fucking meme coin. Like, what? And the issue, too, about fighting over it is, like, just people just don't understand what crypto is. Because their counter to this is they're just going to say it's crypto. You don't have to buy it. Nobody's forcing anybody to buy it. Like, if people want to buy into a meme coin, they say that it's a meme coin. They really, truly do. There really isn't anything you can say about it. Like, they're pretty open that it's just a scam. Like, it used to be that people would pretend. First, they pretended with big crypto projects. Oh, this project, check out the white paper on this, it's crazy. Then they pretended with, like, NFTs based on other cryptos. Well, we're going to do cool things with NFT. And now people are literally just like, oh, it's a meme coin. LOL, memes. LOL, it's just a meme coin. And it's basically, that's just like, I don't even want to say it's a code word for a scam. It's just scams. That's all it is. But people seem to be okay with it. So what do you even do about that? I have no idea.
All over the press today talking about all the different scenarios for the Trump coin and how this is nothing but pure grift.
Let's move on to Boeing and Boeing's earnings. They had actually a really good earnings report. Revenue up 18% to $19.5 billion. Deliveries up nearly 60%. They've also reduced their cash burn down to $2.3 billion. A year ago, it was $4 billion. And there was a really big pop in the stock here. I think, it was a great report. I think what really surprised to the upside, though, and what the markets are pricing in here, was how optimistic Boeing was and their CEO was, Kelly Ortberg, about the tariff environment. Because, meanwhile, you've got all these other companies that are somewhat freaking out about the tariffs. 40% of earnings calls so far this quarter have mentioned the word recession, which is unbelievable. By the way, 90% of them have mentioned the word tariff, and you actually called this. You said that tariffs was going to be the new AI on earnings calls. That is what's happening. But he did not seem that concerned about these tariffs. And he was asked up front, what about China? China is your second largest market in aviation. Well, are you concerned about that? And he didn't seem fazed. And if I had to paraphrase his response, it would be, we're watching it, but we'll be okay. And then he had this line where he said that 2025 would be Boeing's, quote, turnaround year. So very optimistic. I think what that tells you is that he and Boeing believe that these tariffs, particularly on China, are going away. And we'll discuss more what's happened in terms of tariffs and how Trump appears to be caving. But it is interesting that these earnings came out before we heard those comments from Trump. And so it appears that Boeing, in my view, had some sort of inside knowledge, or at least some inside feeling that, yeah, these China tariffs, they look very scary, but ultimately we're not too worried about it. How else would they not be worried about it if they didn't have some inkling or some real sense that these tariffs wouldn't be going through?
I mean, one of two things has happened. Either he called the Boeing CEO and said, don't worry, boss. Hey, do you want to come to my crypto meeting? Don't worry, right? We know you're a great company. Don't worry. And, let me put out a press release saying you're hiring more people. Just don't be critical of your earnings call, obviously. Or the Boeing CEO just said, this guy's full of shit. Nothing's going to happen here.
Could be that.
We make great planes. Airbus, I mean, the thing about this is a duopoly controlled by two companies, Airbus and Boeing. And even if Airbus, for a time being, makes a better plane, as the global economy grows and demographics grows, there's always a need for more commercial aircraft, and no one of them can produce enough. So it really is a duopoly. And they have incredible pricing power, and these are just incredible companies. And I think what he's decided is, okay, this is a fucking distraction. And his earnings seem to cement that. And while China's threatened to reduce their order book, I would bet the order book that the Chinese, the CCP, and the people at Boeing, who are very smart and hire former ambassadors, have all said to each other, look, there's a non-zero probability, a most likely opportunity that the order book and the way we do business is going to stay exactly the same.
What we're seeing with a lot of these big corporate CEOs, companies like Target, companies like Walmart, companies like, other companies in defense, like GE Aerospace, many of these CEOs are meeting with the White House, they're meeting with the president, and they're coming out of those meetings appearing to be a lot calmer. And in fact, this was reported by...
And the scary thing, and we don't know now because we have no more insight into anything that happens in our government, and we're living in an unprecedented age of corruption. The thing we don't know is, are these people coming away feeling confident because they feel like the tariffs are going away, or are they coming away confident because they feel like they managed to cut a deal with this administration that's going to give them a competitive edge? But because of the current structure of our government and because of the moral failings of our current government, we literally have absolutely no way of knowing the answer to that at all. So,
Charles Gasparino at Fox Business, the administration at the White House is actually actively alerting Wall Street executives. They're reaching out and telling them that they are nearing agreements on these trade deals, which is a very interesting dynamic that we're now entering into a market and a world.
I don't believe that, unless I hear, because this administration has also proven that they will lie about anything, which they've done. I don't know. I wouldn't believe that we're nearing any trade agreement unless another country confirms it first, because Trump has said multiple times now, I think, that China and them have been talking or whatever, and I think China's literally just come out and denied it and said, no, we haven't spoken to this admin at all. That's just not true. So I don't even know. No, it's not. No, I don't know. I'm saying I don't even know. We can't even trust the current admin that they are near anything, even if they say they are.
We're actually the heads of the largest corporations and the heads on Wall Street, they're getting a heads up, and they're able to front run the largest news item of our time. And you could say, that this has happened in the past, but I don't think at the level that we're seeing today.
Yeah.
Usually it would be that with very highly sensitive economic data like this, there is a protocol, and the White House comes out and they publicly announce it, and you give markets an equal time, an equal footing to react to what is happening. But it appears that there's such a level of disorganization in the White House. And
corruption.
They're so freaked out by how the markets are reacting. It feels as if what is happening is the administration is having no choice but to call the big dogs of the Fortune 500 and say, hey, just don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. And that's a material information right there. I mean, that is ground zero for insider trading.
He has been beating markets consistently at Destiny. I guess he is a genius. Who Paul Pelosi has? I mean, you can link me something showing it if you want, but it has to be from a non-retarded website.
It hasn't actually happened yet, but we all know that the line between fair trading versus insider trading is very blurry, and we are in an incredibly blurry time right now. And we'll talk more about that in our main story when we really focus on these tariffs. Let's just move on to this new data on wealth inequality. The top 19 households minting $1 trillion in wealth last year, biggest single year increase in history. They now own, those top 19 households now own 1.8% of the entire household wealth in America. That's up from 0.1% in 1982. By the way, the bottom 50% of Americans, they own 3% of the household wealth. So you got half of America with 3% and the top 19 households with 1.8%. There are now 1,990 billionaires in America, and that number is up 45% since 2021, just 4 years ago. So we talk a lot about income inequality and also wealth inequality on this podcast. And here we have some new data, which is just telling us the same thing. We are a massively unequal society.
Well, to stick to the moral argument, it's bad for the economy. And that is when all of that prosperity is being crowded into the 0.01%. One, I don't think they have as much of a vested interest in public infrastructure and the well-being and prosperity of America. Do they have a vested interest in our healthcare system? No. Do they even have a vested interest in our national security? Because at the end of the day, they can piece out to New Zealand or Dubai or...
One thing, I don't know if we heard this on, it was one of Scott's shows or something else, but somebody mentioned this, and I just don't know the names of all these things, so I wouldn't be able to say, but I mean, it was said that it's kind of sad that older billionaires or older elites in society, the way that they left their footprint in American society was by investing in like elite, like academic institutions or elite cultural institutions or icons to like leave their mark. And our current billionaire class doesn't seem to be as interested in making those same types of investments. But
London. So you're essentially creating a superclass of people that control so much economics and have so much power over our government, but don't exercise the power in a means that affects all of America because they've basically become sequestered from America and what's good or what's bad about it. They're literally behind gilded gates. And, you know, at some point, and I don't think they believe this, at some point people show up with pitchforks and lanterns, right? But if you think about third world nations that never able to get out of the way and ultimately end up in revolution, they have what's the common feature across all of them? Crazy income inequality. So this is not only bad for the economy, it's really damaging for our culture. And what you see here is that young people...
Yeah, I think the issue is that our current billionaire class are uneducated tech bros. Fuck, dude, it's actually really, it's really annoying. Maybe the elites just were better. They were just better people. They really were. They were just built differently. We need to bring back the real elite class and not the tech bro elite class. It's just not good. Let me use the restroom. 1 sec. Fuck.
Are increasingly disillusioned with America. More than 4 in 10 young Americans today under 30 say they're barely getting by financially, while just 16%, 1 in 6 young people say they're doing well or very well. 1 in 6 young Americans, the wealthiest country in the world, say they're doing well or very well. Now, some of that is probably a benchmarking problem where they think if they're not on a Gulfstream or in St. Bart's, they're failing. But still, some of that is real. They have less money. Fewer than half feel a sense of community, with only 17% reporting deep social connection. That is really sad. Now, is income inequality driving all of this? No, but I've said on this show for a long time that the majority of what ails America can either be reverse engineered or partially correlated to massive income inequality.
I think the reason that we're talking about this and the reason that this is important and it relates to our discussions of markets, it also has a place in the world of politics. I really believe that this is the defining issue of our time and of this generation. I think this is the most important thing that we're going to see and that I'm going to be grappling with for probably the rest of my life. And I was just thinking, you know, you're talking about the 0.1%, the 99% there. You sound a lot like Bernie Sanders. And this is what people used to make fun of Bernie for. And I think back to, you know, the Occupy Wall Street days, where actually it was the same issues that were on the table. And it was the same things that people were upset about and that people were protesting against. And you had people like Bernie who talked about the issues, but who over time were kind of written off by the establishment. Many sort of wrote him off as a quack or a little crazy or a socialist or a communist. But one stat I would point you to, which blew me away, last week, Bernie Sanders and AOC held a rally in California, and 36,000 people showed up. Just for comparison, a Trump rally is on average around 5,000 people. The Madison Square Garden rally, that was 20,000 people. This was 36,000 people. And the message from those two candidates, or
having a good show and getting people to show up for a rally is not the same thing as getting people to fucking vote. You have to get these motherfuckers to actually vote for any of this shit to fucking matter.
Politicians is simply about inequality. That's the whole thing. And it's just so fascinating that 10, 15 years ago, when Occupy Wall Street was at its peak, people were saying this is a big problem. It's only gotten worse.
Yeah, it's gotten much.
Yeah, but the issue is nobody talks about what you can do to actually fix the problem. It's just a bunch of virtue signaling and cringe LARPing. Like, nobody actually has any real solutions. They just want to say, fuck the billionaires or whatever the fuck else, and there's just nothing. There's no actual solutions presented.
Sure, so
It's gotten way worse.
which says to me we need a new framing, and that is, I think it's inspiring that AOC and Bernie are able to turn out these many people. There's definitely a groundswell of dissatisfaction. I think it was more inspired by some of the illegal seizure of the constitutional power, the idea that people are being rounded up effectively, some of the corruption, people being fired in sort of a reckless and cruel manner. I don't know if this was directly about income inequality, but that's sort of Bernie's talk track. I would reframe it because sometimes I think he comes across, I think the class war.
I've been making all this shit, and I've only had one. I've only got one blue rocket turret. What the fuck?
Warrior rap hasn't really resonated per your comments, talk track. I would reframe it because sometimes I think he comes across, I think the class warrior rap hasn't really resonated per your comments. It continues to get worse. I think the framing should be something along the lines of the following, and that is the greatest innovation in history was not the iPhone or the semiconductor. It was the American middle class. It's created more tax revenue. It's fought wars. It's funded everything from the iPhone to vaccines. The American middle class is the greatest innovation in history. Now, how did it happen? It happened because 7 million men returned from war, and they demonstrated heroism, they were fit, and we put a bunch of money in their pockets. We had the National Highway Transportation Act, we had FHA loans, we had the GI Bill, and we made them very attractive to women, so they mated.
And libs like you saying this is capitalism working well. True, socialism worked way better for who? Fascism worked way better for who? True, dude. Epic statement, by the way. Epic. You're so epic. Mass demandi. Epic, dude.
Had the baby boom, and then we took a lot of that money and that prosperity from these households that were very productive. We taxed it at a fair rate, including corporations that were sometimes paying 40 and 50%, the super wealthy that were sometimes paying 70, 80, and 90%. And we not only reinvested continually in the middle class, but we said we need to invite more people who've been sequestered from this prosperity into the fold. And we had legislation that advanced the rights of women and of non-whites, and we built the greatest society in history. And it all started from a really robust middle class. And it's like, well, okay, that's fine. You got me there. Most people would agree, Republicans and Democrats. Where sometimes we differ in opinion is that Republicans or the super wealthy will try and convince you that the middle class is a self-healing organism that happens on its own.
Like oil.
Or that if you let the most productive people in the world, i.e. the super rich, do their thing unfettered, that the value they create will trickle down to the middle class. All right, we have so much data showing that just doesn't work. And I think we need to come out of the closet and say, you have to redistribute income from corporations and from the wealthy to the middle class in the form of education, child tax credit, a truly progressive tax system. Maybe young people under the age of 40 or anyone that makes less than $100,000 pays 10%. Anyone that makes over $1 million, an alternative minimum tax of 40%. And here's the thing about taxes. You wouldn't need to, you could lower the tax rates if you enforce them. It's the tax code where everybody gets fucked. And until we acknowledge that the middle class is not a self-healing organism and there needs to be redistribution from corporations and the super wealthy to the middle class, it's just going to continue to go sideways and wither. And actually, the middle class hasn't declined, if you will, but it's been static relative to the unbelievable prosperity that's been crammed into the top 1%. And then you lay on top of that social media, which is basically an orgy of the life of the top 0.1%. So that's the new benchmark. And what you end up with is people who see prosperity everywhere,
but aren't
participating it unless they're in the top 0.1%, which leads to an obese, angry, depressed, anxious, younger generation. So all of this is on a downward spiral focused on not only prosperity being crammed into the 0.1%, but that prosperity being rubbed in everyone's face. And if people under the age of 40 in the most prosperous nation in history don't feel confident enough that they can form a household and have a kid, then none of this matters.
Wow.
We'll be right back. And if you like the show, please let us know in the comments and tap the subscribe button
Let them know,
below
guys.
to get new episodes.
New episodes. New. Wow.
Support for the show comes from the Fundrise Flagship Fund. Real estate investing is boring. Now, prediction markets, on the other hand, or even the stock market, which can swing wildly on a headline, those will keep you on the edge of your seat.
Okay.
But with real estate investing, there's no drama or adrenaline or excuses to refresh your portfolio every few minutes. Just bland and boring stuff, including diversification and dividends. So you won't be surprised to learn the Fundrise Flagship Real Estate Fund is a complete snooze fest. The fund holds $1.1 billion worth of institutional caliber real estate managed by a team of pros focused on steadily growing your net worth for decades to come. See? Boring. And that's the point. You can start investing in minutes and with as little as $10 by visiting fundrise.com/PropG. Carefully consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Fundrise Flagship Fund before investing.
Will do.
Find this information and more in the fund's prospectus at fundrise.com/flagship. This is a paid ad.
We need to make voting so easy that they sneeze and they vote. Purging voters, difficult ID requirements, and limited voting locations. Just make changes too hard. It should be a national holiday. I think that would help. I feel like it would help.
Support for the show comes from Gruns. If you're looking for a new tasty nutrition solution,
I feel like I hear the redistribution of wealth line a lot. What would redistribution help? I think redistribution helps in two ways. In one, it helps in a material sense that it makes it so you can have access to more things that you might think are important. So things like anything from transportation and healthcare and childcare to just being able to buy cooler iPhones or whatever. But I think it also helps in a second way, in that I feel like right now, there's not a very big investment in the success of large corporations in the United States. Because like if a big corporation does really well, unless you directly own their stock, you don't really feel any of that benefit. And I feel like having a more aggressive tax code or redistribution scheme, I guess, would give you a little bit more investment in that success. Because I don't think that the average American feels very much investment in the success of a large company in the United States, which I think is not good.
then look no further than Gruns. It's a convenient, comprehensive formula packed into 8 gummies a day. Gruns isn't a multivitamin, a greens gummy, or a prebiotic. It's all of those things, and then some, at a fraction of the price. Their daily packs contain 8 gummies because you just can't fit the amount of nutrients they do just into one gummy. Generic multivitamins only contain around 7 to 9 vitamins, but Gruns have more than 20 vitamins and minerals, plus more than 60 whole food ingredients. They actually provided us with a bit of science to explain what makes Gruns different. Basically, 30% of the population has a gene that messes with how they...
What would a responsible beneficial redistribution look like? I don't know. Higher child tax credit, probably some kind of public option healthcare. That seems to be a thing that would probably help, actually, and it seems to be a thing politically that a lot of people want and socially that a lot of people want.
absorb vitamins. But Gruns is methylated, which is a fancy way of saying their vitamins like B12 and folate can be absorbed by your body. Methylating is an expensive option for a lot of other companies, but Gruns is looking out for you. Plus, they're vegan and free of nuts, dairy, and gluten, and they're made with no artificial colors or flavors. Get up to 45% off when you go to gruns.co and use code PROFG. That's GRUNS.co. Using code PROFG for 45% off.
Damn. But isn't a higher child tax credit a transfer of income, not wealth? I mean, they're used kind of interchangeably here.
Support for the show comes from LinkedIn. While the latest technology gadgets and algorithms can be useful for your small business, at the end of the day, the most important thing is still the quality of people you hire.
Okay.
LinkedIn wants you to feel confident that you're hiring the best. Based on LinkedIn's data, 72% of SMBs using LinkedIn say that it helped them find a high-quality candidate. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates that you can manage all in one place. And LinkedIn's new features can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. They say you can even add a hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture and get 2 times more qualified candidates. Either post your job for free or pay to promote. Promoted jobs get 3 times more qualified applicants. Wow. Find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring today. Find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/prof.
Will
That's
do.
linkedin.com/prof to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Fuck. I didn't know there were terms and conditions. Fuck.
We're back with Prof G Markets. A clear pattern is emerging in Trump's policymaking. Bold declarations followed by abrupt reversals. After
What?
posting on Truth
I thought he
Social
was
that
winning.
Fed Chair Jerome Powell's, quote, termination cannot come fast enough, Trump later told reporters that he had, quote, no intention of firing Powell. Similarly, after implementing a 145% tariff on Chinese imports, he's now saying that the level of tariffs could, quote, come down substantially. He also is planning to exempt car parts from those tariffs and the tariffs on steel and aluminum. On Wednesday, all 3 major indices initially jumped. However, they pulled back from their morning highs when Scott Bessent clarified that Trump hadn't offered to remove the tariffs on China unilaterally. Still,
no.
the Nasdaq closed 2.5%
lied?
higher. The S&P 500 was up 3% and the Dow rose more than 1%. Scott, you predicted that Trump would walk back on many of these issues. It seems like that is happening. What is your take on this?
The only 2 things you have to remember in negotiation are, one, not to make it personal. Don't make it win-lose. Don't create emotion on either side that's going to, if you act like an asshole, people don't want to do a deal with you. They want to hurt you in the negotiation. They're not inclined to cut you a break or want to get a deal done. And
I've said this a lot before. Well, I guess now I have a personal example. Yeah, people have this like very naive or weird. I don't know where this comes from. If it's just people, I don't even want to know if it's watching movies, because I don't even think in movies it works away. But like negotiations with parties are very personal and like very like relationship oriented, like having a good connection somewhere or being on good terms with somebody. Like these things are really important. For some reason, a lot of people have this like really naive view of negotiations where it's just like, oh, you just start with a number as high as possible, LOL, and then you negotiate down from there. And it's like, no, like a bad first offer could literally just have a person walking away. Why would you do that? Like people have margins. Like people can't just afford infinite shit. And it's kind of insulting if somebody starts with an ungodly high figure for a negotiation. Like it might make you not want to work with that person at all,
And then the second thing is always show a credible willingness to walk away. He imposed in what was the ultimate little dick energy move. They raised they keep matching, and he keeps going, and he went to 145. And then he says those tariffs are too high and will clearly come down. Okay.
Good one.
You raise them to this point, and then a week later say they're clearly too high and they need to come down? You're the one that put this shit in. So my prediction all along is going to be that, or has been, that after all of this noise and damage,
we're going to be back to basically where we were before, except for worse in every single conceivable way. But somehow Trump will market it as a win, and at least 80% of his fan base will eat it up.
to our brand is done. The global tariff system, other than world trade, that'll be inspired across strange bedfellows because we've got them to start speaking and cooperating. But the U.S. tariff complex or structure across the world will look strikingly similar to the way it looked before we started this bullshit nonsense. And all we have done is alienated people and massively reduced our goodwill and our brand equity. The weird thing is this guy is such a fucking toxic narcissist. I think he enjoys this shit.
He does. He likes the attention.
He doesn't care because he's going to make $1 billion+ in his Trump meme coin.
He just likes the attention.
And he just wants to be the center of attention every day.
There it is. That's what he wants.
It's like when my youngest used to act out and be a total asshole, and you realize, okay, they're acting out because they want attention. I mean, this guy is acting out every day. I think he would threaten nuclear war if he were out of the news cycle long enough and wanted desperately back in, regardless of the damage.
He's walking everything back, right? And one thing that I think has been interesting has been China's response. You saw this hashtag that went viral in China, which was hashtag Trump chickened out. So however it is positioned by this administration, the message that the public has received and the message that China received is that he blinked, as you predicted. He folded, he caved, he chickened out, however you want to call it. And I think the question is, okay, what does it mean for markets that that's how the world perceives us? I mean, initially the markets reacted quite positively, right? I mean, the Dow rose 1%, the S&P was up 2%, NASDAQ up 2.5%. I think they're pricing in some positivity that Trump is walking back the craziness whether it comes to the tariffs on China, the tariffs on the auto industry, or his threats to the chair of the Federal Reserve. But I do think it's also important to keep in mind the damage that has still been done since Liberation Day, since April 2nd. Since that day,
Liberation
the
Day,
NASDAQ is
guys.
down more than 5%. The S&P is down more than 5%. The Dow is down more than 6%. The yield has risen more than 20 bips. It's at around 4.4% right now. So I think the question is, okay, what are the markets telling us? Yes, the tariffs are likely to be, if not reversed, significantly reduced. But what are they pricing in right now that is worse than pre-Liberation Day? And I think the answer is probably just the damage that we have done to our brand and our reputation as a safe economy, as a reliable trade partner, etc. And there were some comments from Ken Griffin, which I thought were particularly telling. And I think he actually put it quite well. And you remember Ken Griffin, founder CEO of Citadel. This is a guy who is a Trump supporter. He donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration fund. He donated $100 million to the Republican super PACs in the last election cycle. He's a pretty much a MAGA guy. He said, quote, "The US is more than a nation, it's a brand, and we're eroding that brand right now." And I think that's right. And I think that brand erosion is what's being reflected in the stock markets and the bond markets right now. They had a little bit of an uptick, but ultimately you look, since that date, since Liberation Day, we're still way down. And I think the question is this reversible? Is it too late? Or is the damage already done?
Well, I was thinking,
I
you
saw
listen
Vic's
to this
coming
show,
up.
we've been talking about
Nice.
that the long-term damage here is to the erosion in our brand equity, which decreases our margin and in millions of different ways that we'll never know directly. I think our allies are just less likely to share information with us. I think someone who is asked to deliver weapons to what might be a terrorist cell is less likely to call the American embassy and say, hey, I saw this. I think people are less likely to send their best and brightest to the U.S. when PhD students are being sent errant emails asking to self-deport. And those types of injuries, it's like having a high blood pressure. It's just at some point it creates an opportunity set or a corpus that is just more prone to bad things to happen to that person. And that's what's essentially he's giving us really high cholesterol or high blood pressure, making us more vulnerable to opportunistic infections. Can it be repaired? Sure. I mean, we've had really dark moments in our history. I think a Democratic or a different Republican in the White House, and maybe even some learning that comes out of this, and seeing Americans kind of rise up and realize that their rights are not foregone conclusions, and then leveraging the democratic process to change direction. You know, I think our allies will forgive us. I think we have a longer history with them than that. And that's the real damage. The damage and the opportunity is that to tear up 80-year alliances and erode that goodwill is just stupid. And it's sort of been something we've taken for granted. The good news is I think a lot of that ill will has been ring-fenced to one man. This guy will go down.
Ring fence to one man, to just Trump. Maybe, but one issue you have to remember with the United States is that the United States is a democracy, and I don't know if people necessarily view us as a dictatorship. Like for a dictatorship, like when a dictator is removed or a monarch is toppled and then the new guy comes in, there can be a lot of celebration. But Donald Trump is not a dictator. At least he didn't assume power as one. Like he was democratically elected. I don't know, man. That's pretty spooky for people to deal with.
Down as the stupid presidency. It used to be coarseness and cruelness, but he had a certain feel for the markets. People thought he was a good business person. The markets did do well during his first term. A lot of people from different cohorts did well. Now, granted, did we spend $7 trillion in additional deficits or $8 trillion? Yeah, but it would be hard to punch too many holes in the economic record of his first administration. Now this one just seems like, okay, how do we go out is just really stupid. But I absolutely think we can repair this. And I think the upside is that a lot of the ill will is not towards America, it's towards one individual.
Yeah. I think we're sort of in a race against
Hopefully.
China
Let's hope
to
so.
get the world on our side. And I think I'm with you. I think people would be faster.
Surely international leaders understand that the majority of Americans don't support his tariff actions, though. Why would you assume that if you're an international leader? Trump still enjoys like decent popularity given an unprecedented, ungodly action, right? Remember, I brought this up before. The midterms, or not the midterms, this last election, in a way, was actually a landslide victory for conservatives, just not in the way that they market it. It wasn't a landslide victory in that they actually had a landslide victory. It was a landslide victory in that somebody like Donald Trump should never be able to win in any kind of like liberal society with free and fair elections. This should just never happen. The fact that he was able to win bodes very poorly for everything relating to our country. It's just not good. So
to renormalize relations with the US than they were with China. But having said that, China is trying. I mean, they just lifted these sanctions on the EU. They just sent their trade delegations to Sweden, to Hungary, to Norway, to Germany. They are certainly trying to rekindle those relationships. And I think for US investors and US companies, the question is, can we normalize our relationships with other nations faster than China can? I think we probably can, but it's 4 years. So, we're definitely running against the clock here. And that is going to have a massive impact on US markets, especially given what we've seen with
Hassan and FT Signifier shitting you right now. Oh no, not Hassan and FT Signifier.
the global rotation and the capital flows that are leaving America and, as we discussed last week, entering back.
I am in Stream disagreements, DGG chat. I am a Canadian who just voted for a conservative. Do you mind if I share why? I have questions about the U.S. economy under Biden. Hi, what's up, buddy?
Hey, yo. I am a Canadian.
Okay.
Actually, I made a Twitcher terrorist, by the way. I just wanted to throw it out there.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, so I was the guy that made that. I sent you a bunch of emails. But anyway,
Okay.
I'm a little triggered by the people in the chat, or that were chatting about Canadian politics. It's like Vegan Gains and like the other two guys.
Mm-hmm.
And like I actually I just came back from voting conservative.
Okay.
I know they're probably gonna fucking hate me for that, but it's fine. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
You're good.
But so yeah, I actually want to understand like how Biden ran the economy during COVID, and like what were his like plans that he did that was like so good in terms of like what, like, because obviously you guys had a net GDP per capita gain that was like $30,000, but like Canada like was just completely flat during those years, right? So in the last like 10 years, I believe it was something like that.
I mean,
So,
coming
like,
out of COVID, the United States was just able to do a ton of stimulus as our economy was opened. And I think we probably have a little bit more leeway there to do stimulus because of the strength of our economy globally. But I mean, a lot of the stimulus and stuff happened earlier under Trump. Like the Payment Protection Program was Trump. The American Rescue Plan was Biden.
is that good?
What?
What's the payment? Yeah.
I generally think overall, I think it was. There's a lot of people that don't like it for dumb reasons. Some people that don't like it for good reasons. I think there might have been a high level of fraud. There wasn't very good auditing for this. Yeah.
So that's the reason why I voted conservatives, because I when Trudeau got in, it was 2015, and like I just see a flat line in GDP per capita. It's like hovering around like 50,000, and we are basically had like no growth. Like one year we actually declined in GDP, like totally. Like it was like we declined for like the year, I guess. And it's like what the hell is going on? Like how like, and now like obviously he's gonna have like some of the, like he's not gonna get rid of the entire administration that was like a part of that, like Carney. You know what I mean? Like he's not gonna get rid of it. It's sort of similar to like the Biden and like the Kamala situation where they got a new candidate to run in the election, right? So like they're not gonna get rid of the like they're obviously gonna make some changes and be a bit more economy focused. But the guy worked for the Liberal Party, so like did he take no advice, or was it advice not good, or
well,
like
okay, my understanding,
like,
people keep bringing this up, and I don't know, maybe I need to look this up because I keep hearing so many different claims about this. I don't think Carney was his advisor for too long. Like I don't know if it was like a significant impact on.
Well, I remember hearing his name, but this was from the Conservative Party. But like I just remember hearing his name, that he was like the financial advisor, like back in like 2021 and 2022. So like they would call him Carbon Tax Carney. So like, but that's all I really know because I'm not like into politics like that.
Okay, so
but
he
like,
was the governor of the Bank of Canada from 2008 to 2013. My understanding is Canada made out pretty well after the 2007 crisis. That they were.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't.
That's what I like about him. So like, but he had that, but then also he was the financial advisor, and then like we're kind of.
It looks like is financial advisor.
Before the Trump tariff.
Is it financial advisor? Is that even like a real position in the government, or because it looks like
I don't know, but like that's what the Conservative Party was saying, so I just kind of like took it as, like if he was doing it, and like why would they just bring his name in?
Okay,
like,
fuck
did they
me.
know that he
Never
was
mind.
gonna run in 20?
I should have never taken this at face value. I'm sorry. So Carney was the governor of the Bank of England from 2013 to 2020. He was the governor of the Bank of Canada from 2008 to 2013. So that was after the 2007 crisis. Carney was never a formal member of Trudeau's government. I should have never let that slide. I should never believe anything a conservative says. No offense. I'm sorry.
No,
okay,
yes.
so he was just an informal economic advisor. I don't know what the actual
he was
structure.
not a minister.
Yeah, I don't know what the structure of your government is for who the actual ministers would have been, or who the more formal like actual position of government would have been. But I don't know if I would hold an informal economic advisor as the chief reason why an economy might not be doing well under a prime minister. That would be
So okay, but like how come the Conservatives were bringing his like?
Wait, why do you think?
I remember
his
name in like 2022 and 2021, and like why were they bringing his name up? Or like did they know that he was gonna run like as prime minister or something? Like I don't know. Like
probably because I don't follow your politics as closely, but people have been talking about outing Trudeau for a long time. Was his name floated in 2022 as a possible replacement?
That's Ask DGG. I thought like I don't actually know, but like I just remember him. They were saying that he was his financial advisor. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I gotta stop reading chat. But like, if he was involved in the government, would he give like? I guess he's not. I guess he's informal. So, like, in the U.S. government, let me ask you this: like, is there ever informal economic people that are in the government? Like, I hear like Peter Thiel. I also hear like
I mean, you can have like informal advisors, but I would never hold an informal advisor to be more responsible than like the treasury of the or the secretary of like the treasury, or the secretary of like what is oh god, the guy who lives not Besant, the other guy. Fuck, I don't even remember his name right now. The retarded one. Navarro? Oh, Secretary of Commerce. Yeah, is what I'm thinking. Yeah, I would never hold an informal advisor up to those two people. Like, I would never say that the Secretary of Commerce or the Secretary of the Treasury, I would never say that like these two guys have less responsibility than an informal economic advisor to the president.
Yeah, but do you understand like why somebody would
Lutnick is what I was saying. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Do you understand like somebody like in my position that would see something that has completely flatlined for like the past 10 years and it was under a liberal administration exclusively? And, like obviously you can't just blame cause and correlation, but like you just see those numbers and it's like it stayed at like 50,000
Sure. I mean,
10
it
years.
wouldn't surprise
And
me
compared
that.
to the Americans, it was fuck. You guys went up like. Honestly, if I had Biden as my fucking prime minister, I'd be like voting for him again. And I wish he just came up north, and I would fucking vote for him, like, like an IV, like like you said in Fierce
Yeah.
Morgan.
I mean,
like,
I don't know. I can't. I just don't follow Canadian like economics as well, so I can't say. But that's why I was telling my chat earlier. Like there's probably more legitimate reasons to have grievances with the Liberal Party in Canada. It's not the same as in the United States. It's a totally different dynamic. But I wouldn't be able to get into the details of why one or the Liberal Party didn't do as well governing Canada. I just don't know. I truly don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, and economic policy, definitely, it was like you just don't see anything good that comes out of it. And then they also, like, the housing went up, like, tremendously because they allowed, well, for me, my understanding is that they had a lot of immigrants come in, which is, immigration is not bad, but if you have it, like, an overwhelming amount, it could, disrupt your infrastructure, like, your institutions and stuff like that. Like, if you can't handle the amount of immigrants that are coming in with the infrastructure, like, what are you supposed to do? Like, and also your GDP is not growing. So it's like, what is the point of this if you're not benefiting the economy, and also it's now putting strain onto the
Yeah, I don't disagree.
economic.
The only thing I go by when I'm listening, because remember, I don't know much about your economy, and I don't have like a history with your parties. It's just when I listen to the people speak, and I mean they're politicians, so And when I look at their background, just because Carney seems to have a lot of background in the banking stuff, it feels to me like he has a better direction than the Pierre guy, who just didn't seem like much more than just another populist to me. So
I definitely feel better with him being the party leader, but I just don't trust the entire Liberal administration because we were already struggling financially.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we just have something that that replaces that already existing administration with new people, I feel like it just is not going to get worse. But maybe Carney will actually be better. But I just don't want to. If he was potentially part of it, and then also if he's part of the people that were making those decisions prior, it's like logically I should just vote for the person. It's like for strictly economic reasons. Like I don't think you can argue on the economic, even though he's actually really good.
Maybe, I don't know. I can't help you. Like I said, I just don't follow your politics that close enough to say. But
all right, fine. That's fine. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's all I really want to say. And actually, one more thing: the Liberal government actually fucked my the city that I lived in, because we have a refinery here, and you know how they built a pipeline down to
the U.S. Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually the original one was actually supposed to go to the fucking city that I live in.
Oh damn.
And the Quebec blocked it, and the Liberals blocked it. So then now, my city gets fucked because we were actually thinking about building a new refinery or another one here, and we've had we're totally in disarray. There's homelessness everywhere, in the city that I live in. So it's I don't know if it's all because of. It's definitely not all because of the Liberals, obviously, but we would have a bit of a more prosperous, because right now what we're doing is we're importing oil from the Saudis, and that's obviously not. It's way more expensive to import that than if you just had pipeline.
Okay.
Towards
I can't speak to any of this. I don't know.
Yeah.
How much
Anyway,
right.
that happened.
Thanks a lot. It sounds good. Anything else? Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. I love you. Be careful. Bye. I can't debate Canadian. I can't debate you guys on your econ chat. I just don't know. I don't have the history. So.
Back into Europe. So that's probably the question, and we'll see. That's all I'll say on that. We'll be right back. And if you're enjoying the show so far, be sure to like and subscribe to the Prof G Pod YouTube channel.
3-minute ad break. Okay.
Tesla's first quarter results fell short across the board, missing expectations on the top and bottom lines. Net income plunged 71% year over year, and automotive revenue fell 20%. Overall revenue dropped 9%. Still, the stock jumped 5% in after-hours trading. part of the lift came from the broader market rally we just discussed, but investors were also encouraged after Elon pledged to significantly reduce the time he spends on Doge, and he promised to refocus his efforts on Tesla starting next month. Scott, I listened in on the call. I have a number of observations, but first, just your take on these quarterly results, as well as Elon's decision to step back from Doge.
First off, let me just go to how incredibly cynical it is for Elon Musk to show up to the government with a chainsaw.
The chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw.
God, I hate him so much. He's so fucking cringe.
And then shut off $75 billion in U.S. aid going to people struggling with malaria in Myanmar or soup kitchens in war-torn Ukraine. And his company would have been unprofitable had it not been for
Government subsidies.
Reselling carbon credits.
They were saved by the regulatory credits this quarter. Yeah.
I mean, get this. Its automotive revenue declined 20% year on year. I can't name an automobile company, maybe at some point Jeep or I think Jaguar had a rough couple of years, that has declined 20% year on year.
Staggering.
So this company is declining faster than any automobile company in America. You know, I bet, Ford was probably at 4 or 6%. I'm guessing single digits. These guys are down 20%.
While reducing prices.
Their talk track has always been, we're really not a car company, we're a software company, we're an energy company. But even if okay, fine, if we're a car company, because we're all EVs, we have dramatically fewer parts, so we're able to have a much more robust supply chain, much more efficient production and assembly schedule. And we're the most American-made company. We're the most vertical. We own our dealerships. We don't have this weird thing with the local billionaire, the guy who used to be a quarterback for Alabama or whatever, opening a bunch of dealerships. And Teslas, to their credit, are actually the most American-made product. The majority of products or parts, which was dramatically fewer that go into a Tesla, are sourced in America. All of this adds up to operating margins that were remarkable for the industry of 20%. But the automobile industry is a business of scale. When you buy a Porsche Cayman, is that the SUV, an Audi Q7, or a Volkswagen Touareg, you're buying the same car. They're off the same platform. These platforms are so expensive to build and maintain that you have to shove a ton of throughput across these assembly lines. And then in the case of the Touareg, the Q7, and the Cayenne, the last 10% of the assembly line, they take three different routes and they put in nicer finishes and nicer leather and nicer badging, and they charge different prices and they market them differently in different ad campaigns, different value propositions, right? But if you don't have the scale, it is an impossible industry. As evidenced by Rivian, that makes a great car, they have to sell for $80,000, even though it's costing them $120,000 to produce these things. And until they produce 3x the number, they're never going to get to profitability. So when Tesla's automobile revenues decline 20%, it's exponentially bad to descale in the automotive industry because those assembly lines are not registering a decrease in costs, even though you have less throughput. As a result, their operating margins have gone from 20% to 2.1%. So their operating margins have declined 90%, yet the stock was up 5%. What? And this is a company that is technically unprofitable. They've also lost their leadership position. Volkswagen overtook Tesla as the top EV seller in Europe. And registrations for VW EVs increased 150%, while Tesla registrations dropped 38%. And yet he is able to take the stock up 5% by saying, I am going to focus more on Tesla. We still have this idolatry of innovators. We're still under the belief that him spending more time at Fremont at Tesla is somehow going to turn this company around. So I just think it's a case study in meme stocks and how storytelling and our idolatry of innovators has resulted in an irrational market where the stock price begins to absolutely disassociate from the fundamentals, which I guess is the definition of a meme stock. What are your thoughts, Ed?
Yeah, I think I agree with all that. I mean, just some observations from the earnings call. I think my number one takeaway is that, if he's trying to convince investors that Tesla is fine, which he needs to do, I think he did a really bad job of it. Having said that, the market appears to disagree with me because the stock jumped. And I think a lot of your meme stock explanation might be part of it. But what I heard on that earnings call was a CEO who was panicked, who is confused and who
Sounds
is
like this
most
guy's a jelly
importantly
hater.
in a state of denial. And I will explain what I mean there. But the first thing to note is his opening remarks, which were a monologue about Doge and how important the work he's doing at Doge is. And if you're trying to convince investors that you care more about Tesla, your company, than you do about Doge, you should probably start the earnings call by talking about Tesla. Instead, he goes on about Doge and how he's saving America by cutting wasteful spending. Then he addresses
Elon.
the Tesla protests, which I credit him. He should. It's a huge problem for the company. But he makes this wild claim that the real reason people are protesting Tesla isn't because of any of his actions or any of his comments or the fact that he saluted a crowd in what very much appeared to be a Nazi salute. He didn't acknowledge any of that. He said the reason that people are protesting Tesla is because they're upset that Elon is, through Doge, restricting their ability to get government handouts. I mean, he really said this. He said those protesters, they're all receiving these wasteful and fraudulent dollars from the government. And it's because of Elon, they're angry. They're not going to get this free money anymore, which is just an insane claim that completely disregards what is actually happening to the company and its brand. And it's an extremely important thing to address. I mean, this 20% drop off in revenue, it's almost entirely to do with the brand damage. So you have to be upfront about it, and you have to engage with that issue honestly. He was then asked directly about the brand damage by one of the analysts and asked, what does this brand damage mean, or these rumors of brand damage, what does it mean for the company? And on that occasion, he completely deflects, and he starts going on about the macro environment, which didn't make any sense at all. He said, I'll quote him, quote, "Yeah, I mean, Tesla is immune to sort of the macro demand for cars. So when there's economic uncertainty, people generally want to pause on buying. But as far as absent macro issues, we don't see any reduction in demand." Doesn't make sense. And also, it's completely not true. There is obviously a reduction in demand. Your sales fell 20%.
Results start rolling in a bit at 7:30 EST, and most will start coming in at 9:30. Gotcha.
Favorite line there came when he was trying to assuage investors that Tesla is in fact okay. And the way he does that, he's talking about how Tesla has had struggles in the past, how they've, faced issues, which is all true. And then he says, quote, "We are not on the ragged edge of death." Not even close.
Nice.
And that, to me, that tells me that Elon is thinking about this thing called the ragged edge of death. I mean, I knew Tesla's situation was bad. I didn't think it was that bad. But if Elon's saying that, if he's thinking about it, or if he at least thinks that other people are saying it, well, now I'm certainly considering the possibility that Tesla is, quote, on the ragged edge of death, because he just put it in my brain. So I thought this was some of the worst investor relations I've seen. Clearly the market disagrees with me, and fair enough, but my takeaway is, yes, Elon's back, kind of. He said he's still going to spend 1 to 2 days a week at Doge.
What do you want? Swoozy, you're up.
Wondering. I've always been wondering, Destiny. What do you think about illegal immigration? Because I think most people, around the world, think that illegal immigration is bad. But in America, there are some people that think even though they came here illegally, if they are not violent or they are doing the jobs, they can't stay. Or what's your perspective about it?
I mean, illegal immigration is obviously bad. The question is, what do you do with it? And the issue is, in the United States, it seems like we don't want to increase the legal immigrants coming here. We just want to deport a bunch of illegal immigrants. But in the United States, a lot of the illegal immigrants are working, so it would probably hurt our economy quite a bit. And it just seems like people that want to get rid of illegal immigrants don't have much of a realistic plan to actually get that done. It just becomes like a virtue signal position.
Because when I used to watch Asmongold, for 6 months ago, I used to watch Asmongold more than you. Then when I saw him disagreeing with you on one of his videos, I started watching you more. And then I started noticing that Asmongold started to have a disconnection between the immigrants and the actual people in society. So what do you think about Asmongold's views on illegal immigration?
I don't even know what his views are on illegal immigration. I mean, you have to be a little bit more specific. What do you mean by that?
Sort of like, do you remember when he's made a video saying that he would want to dress up as like Ash Ketchum to like go around ICE agents to say, I'm going to catch them all?
Oh, yeah, I think that's kind of gross, yeah.
All I'm trying to say is that, do you think like maybe what Artem Gold is saying is like, is he a result of his audience or his own personal views, or people that watch him are going to get influenced to have that view of immigrants?
Do I think people that watch him are going to have that view of immigrants? Yeah, probably. What do you mean?
I mean, like, because as you said before, Asmongold is like the perfect MAGA viewer. So if he agrees with the message, don't you think that people that watch him could also be agree with him as well?
Probably, yeah, I would imagine so. Most people that watch most streamers probably agree with the streamers that they watch, yeah? That's why they watch them?
Yeah, because of like, for me, for example, I really used to like Asmongold a lot, but like, I started disagreeing with him with some things, and I started looking for people that disagree with him. That's why I came on your channel, exactly. And I'm just wondering, maybe you can do some things to like convert more people to your channel.
But yeah, I don't know. Listen, if people want to hop on and argue, I'll work on it. After I beat Factorio, I'll start getting real big in that world again. But right now, I'm just trying to beat Space Age, okay?
All right, thank you very much. I'm actually really excited talking to you because I've always wanted to talk to you ever since I've subscribed to you. Thanks.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it, buddy.
So he's kind of back, but he's clearly, in my view, still in a state of delusion and total denial. And I think he did a terrible job of disproving that.
Yeah, I mean, this just calls on so many themes we've sort of beaten to death. Poor governance. No CEO would be allowed to do this. And just, I can't help but take the bait. If Doge was an attempt to audit a $7 trillion enterprise, I can't think of a single enterprise of $1 trillion that would be issued such a clean bill of health as Doge has accidentally, unintentionally, much to their disappointment, issued around the federal government. First they said they were going to save $2 trillion, then $150 billion. It looks like it's about 60 to 65, although that can't be verified. And
Hassan and Co going after BTC now? Damn, hold on.
Where's the fraud? You know Pam Bondi's ready to take a call in from Elon Musk and go after some federal employee who's been stealing. They're all ginned up to do that and announce it. This is a clean bill of health, or as clean a bill of health as you could hope for. Now, some people would say that's incompetence on the part of the auditors, but his board, if he had a real board, they would have called him and said, look, if you want to go play in traffic as a advisor to the president, that's your business, but you can't be CEO of this company. And also, why are you doing this? You're really hurting us. This is just sort of new territory here. The market seems to believe that he's going to be able to create some of that magic pixie dust. You know, how does Tesla come back? A lot like America, I think the rumors of Tesla's brand death have been greatly exaggerated. I think if they came up with 2 or 3 amazing products in the next 3 to 5 years, it's like, we love you again. I think America...
Yeah, but when was the last time Tesla came up with a new product? It seems like it feels like they're just incapable of doing this for some reason. I don't know why.
Can still value product over, great value products over anything else.
Agreed.
So it could absolutely come back. Whether they have those in the pipeline, I don't know.
That's the question. That's the bull case. And those products are, and they said this on the call, it's the robotaxi and it's the humanoid robot, the Optimus robot.
Okay.
And I think the other explanation for the reaction from the stock market is that they did say that they are on track for the robotaxi pilot launch in Austin in June, which is what the market has been waiting for. So, according to them, it's going to happen. I think I believe them at this point. The question is, what does a pilot launch actually mean? Like, is it a fake PR event like we saw last year in LA with the Cybercab show? Is it just 1 or 2 cabs rolling around and you have to book like months in advance? Or does it mean you can actually go to Austin, you can open your phone and order a ride in Tesla, just like you could a Waymo in San Francisco? And that's the question. One thing that made me a little bit bearish is that Elon's response to what it would look like. He said, quote, "We're still debating the exact number to start off on day one, but it's like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 vehicles on day one. So 10 or 20, I thought that was a pretty low number.
Damn.
And given he has a track record of overpromising and under delivering, I could see it being even lower than that. You compare it to Waymo, which has 700 vehicles operating on the ground right now. But that's the question. It's like, do we think the robotaxi is going to be legit or not? That's the opportunity. My view, let's just wait and see. I mean, why buy this company if you don't know what you're actually buying? I mean, people say, oh, it's a robotaxi company. It's an AI company. It's a humanoid robot company. Well, okay, show me the robot. Show me one taxi ride. Ship one ride, and I'll believe you. But they haven't generated a single dollar off of this yet. And so until they can do that, yeah, I'm not buying. And I'm not going to have an argument with you about whether this is a car company or not. As of today, April 2025, it's a car company whose sales are down 20%. That's what it is.
Waymo is, I think, going to be in 10 or 11 cities, including Tokyo by the time Tesla hits Austin. So what is the competitive? Okay, we'll believe you this time. You said in 2017 it was a year.
Is Waymo traded at all publicly or anything? Or is it still... Oh, damn. Huh. Oh, no, because it's owned by Google. So I guess is Waymo like making money then? Because I'm guessing this is all... Oh, wait, is it owned by Google completely? Do they have to report their public earnings or anything? Do they have like a public balance sheet?
That didn't happen. We'll believe you this time.
And 2010.
What is your advantage when you have Waymo is out there with cars and they're launching in the biggest cities and then launching globally? How are you going to compete? Or is this just going to be a race to the bottom, or is there...
His response is it's cheaper.
$700 cars must not be a lot of money.
Are less expensive, and that's their advantage, which I'll take. But even until then, ship the product.
Okay, but that's one of two things. That's either you have scale, software that's better. Once the fixed investment is made, it's all about, in software, it's about they're driving the same goddamn cars, approximately the same dollar volume. How would it be cheaper? It would have to be scale, which means they would take a penetration strategy and lose a shit ton of money. And Alphabet has a much bigger balance sheet. I don't see how they're going to sustain the much bigger penetration strategy and lose a shit ton of money. And Alphabet has a much bigger balance sheet. I don't see how they're going to sustain. Alphabet or Waymo will match their price, whatever Tesla claims they're saying. And given that Tesla does not have the most profitable toll booth in the world, i.e. Google, to subsidize that market share or penetration strategy, they're a squirt gun against a bazooka when they're talking.
I mean, it is true that if Tesla truly could fucking figure it out, which who knows if they even have the capacity to, but if they could figure it out, Tesla has a huge advantage in that they have a fuck ton of cars out there already. Then it comes down to how willing are people going to be to actually have their car like volunteer for this self-driving thing, you know?
About capital and scale.
Exactly.
Unless Alphabet says after all of this money and all this time in establishing market leadership, we're just going to give it up because Elon's decided to engage in a price war. They're going to say, fuck you, bring it on. And then these robots, God, everybody has to put something crazy out there, I think, to get people excited. Fine. The concept cars you see at auto shows, none of them are going to be in the showroom. And I'm personally really excited to get home from work and ask my Tesla robot if it took the meat out of the freezer. I just can't wait for that moment. But robots? I just don't... robots have huge commercial applications. It's called robotics and automation. But what is the use case for the robots? I just find the whole thing kind of comical.
They asked Elon about the humanoid robot, asking a similar question. They said, could you confirm if it is currently operational? If so, what is the current production rate per week? And Elon said, quote, I want to emphasize Optimus is still very much a development program. So this is sort of the play with this. Just talk about it, and then when they ask for the specifics, just sort of delay and obfuscate. That's how he's handling it.
But yeah,
but
meme
the market
lord.
likes it.
We'll see.
Let's take a look at the week ahead. We'll see data on the Personal Consumption Expenditures Index for March, and we'll also see earnings from Microsoft, Meta, Apple, and Amazon. Scott, do you have any predictions?
essentially Donald Trump is about to get Mark Carney elected as Prime Minister of Canada.
Maybe. Careful.
This was a foregone conclusion.
Don't hurt us again.
That he was going to lose. I'm not sure I'm saying his name correct, but the conservative candidate, Poilievre, I believe, I'm terrible at this, he was going to win. Trudeau was so unpopular and entering into this trade war, and who Mark Carney, as current prime minister, has been very kind of forcefully yet dignified. This will be the greatest comeback in probably political history. 25 points down at the turn of the year, and it's all because of Trump. So anyways, my prediction, and I interviewed Prime Minister Carney on the Prop G pod. It has almost 1 million views, I think, on YouTube. And he's very likable. He comes across as incredibly thoughtful, schooled in the U.S., went to work for Goldman Sachs, was the first non-Brit to head the Bank of England. So he's incredibly...
Probably the best resume of all time in the world, maybe.
Yeah, it's just hard to argue with his credentials. And he's tall, he's handsome. You know, he's out of central casting, and he's just handled this. He's what you would want from us. You would want someone forceful and dignified and not having an emotional reaction, but, you know, saying this is not adequate for us. We look forward to reestablishing relations, but until that point, we're obviously going to stand our ground. Anyways, prediction is Trump is about to elect a guy who was 25 points down just 4 months ago. The next Prime Minister of Canada will be Mark Carney.
Are we political insiders in Canada then if he wins?
I expect to be invited to at least a hockey game.
Okay, good. I want to tag along. Just CC me on the email.
He grew up in Edmonton, so he's an Oilers fan, so we're going to have to go all the way out there. Maybe we'll go for the Calgary Stampede or something. But yeah, he and I are good friends now. We're very close. Very close. I'm going to be this secretary of something in Canada.
Secretary of Hockey.
There you go.
How's that?
I like it. I'll take it.
Thank you for listening to Prof G Markets from the Vox Media Podcast Network.
Thanks, guys.